I want to welcome in Jere Beasley, founding a shareholder with Beasley Allen Law Firm. Jere, you've been appreciate you being with us. You've been at this a while. I mean, your name's popped up over the years a bunch.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good little long period of time. We started this firm in 1979. In fact, we just had our 35th anniversary this past week. And what we do generally is just litigation for victims of various types of wrongdoing, and of course we've been pretty busy lately.
And you made a good living at it. I want to get to this concern because normally I haven't seen your firm reach out like this, but you have some real concerns about this Data Security Act of 2014 that's making its way through, I guess, on the federal level, right? The Congress is dealing with this. The concern I get out of this is that the consumer could get screwed out of this.
Well, this is just a typical move by some members of Congress to really protect wrongdoers and not really deal with the problem. Senator Leahy, for example, had put legislation in for several sessions that failed that really would have been a good bill that would have really gotten to this problem early on. The latest bill, what's called the Data Security Act, it really does very little for consumers. It requires the retailers to have procedures in place to protect their customers. But it also takes away the right of the individual victim to file a lawsuit. It also bans class actions, which means that individuals are really getting the shaft, you might say. We don't believe this is what Congress ought to be doing. Congress really needs to get to the core problem here and solve it, because it's one of the most serious problems that faces our country right now. It really got attention during the holidays because of the Target situation. Then you saw Neiman Marcus involved. I suspect you're going to see other retailers with the very same problem. Congress is really the dragging their feet is probably an understatement on this particular issue.
Well, how do we? Because you could put a lot of these retailers out of business because I don't think, although they're providing the opportunity for people to use this, the people who do the data and the financial institutions that are tied to this, you could get in a situation where you're suing everybody out of business, and then we got to determine what the real damages are to the consumer. How do we put protections in that keep commerce going and keep us able to do what we're doing? Or are we asking for too much?
You can regulate reasonably. For example, in Europe, this would not have been the problem in Europe that we're facing right here in the United States. Why? Because in Europe, they have done what needs to be done. They have a totally different system there. Here, we have a card swipe system. Over there, it's quite different, and that's why they're targeting the United States.
But that's more to the card issuers and not as much the retailers, because the retailers are using the product that's provided them, right?
Sure, but the retailers can also take steps to protect the consumers. They have not done that in the past. This is a joint problem. In fact, one of the people, the institutions that are being hurt badly today are the banks and the financial institutions. For example, the banks that we deal with here in Montgomery, they are spending tremendous amounts of money reissuing cards, doing the things that really have to be done. You've got to protect the customer, but you go back to Congress, they could have solved this problem, and they're going to have to solve it, because ultimately our entire financial system can be at risk because of the hacking into the system. They could shut down our system in this country.
Well, the thing that scared me was I was listening to one expert this week, and they were talking about how when these people these people who are stealing identities and taking all this data, they buy their cards in bulk, like we buy business cards. That's scary.
Well, for example, they arrested an individual, a group going into Mexico with cards, with information that is sensitive financial information that certainly it has to be protected, and we've done a very poor job of protecting. In fact, the debate has not been really to protect the consumers in the past. The debate's been who's going to bear the cost of doing what needs to be done to changing our system.
And somebody's going to have to pay for it, and ultimately it may be us too, because that's going to be passed on to us. Jere, how do people get?
You do it correctly and do it right and do it promptly. then the problem is solved to the extent that it can be solved. If we don't solve it, we're facing, in my opinion, monumental problems in the future. And people that want this country to go down, if they can shut down our financial system for a period of time, it would be chaos in this country.
Jere, how do people get more information on, I know you reached out to the press with this release on your concerns. How do people find out more and get involved? And, of course, I guess they need to contact their member of Congress.
I would definitely do that. I would find out exactly what this bill does. In fact, we believe that the financial institutions are exempt from the bill. Pretty much it goes directly to the retailer, and it requires a retailer to put in place certain procedures that probably should have already been in place, I would think, to protect the consumers. For example, in Europe, they would not have this problem because they have a more secure pin and chip technology there.
And I think that's something
we use a magnetic strip card system.
Well, and that's something we got to. That's the one I keep hearing is bad for us. Jere, very much we appreciate it. Jere Beasley, the founding shareholder with Beasley Allen, and we need to be paying attention to this one. Data Security Act of 2014. It's working its way through Congress right now. Jere, thanks. Have a great weekend.
Sure. Stay warm.